Hello and welcome to Wrestling Questions You Most Want Answered, where we answer your questions. I'm Michael Sidgwick, joined by Michael Hamflett to do precisely that. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure to subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube for daily wrestling podcasts, where we preview and review Raw, SmackDown, the show formerly known as NXT 2.0, Dynamite, Collision, pay-per-views, premium live events. We have wrestler interviews on occasion, one coming up with one Mark Henry imminently. We have roundtable discussions. We answer your questions on podcasts like this. And we host, most weeks, a roundup of the week, complete, of course, with a bloody good quiz on WrestleCulture. Are you ready to A some cues?
Let's go.
Right, okay, let's just get right into things right now. We start with, it's Gavin, not a cult. Thank you for your question, and indeed thank you everyone else if I forget to do so on an individual basis. It's Gavin asks, can I get your thoughts on the return of the Gold Rush tournament? The C2 appears to have taken the spot. Ideally a tournament packed with actual main event talent. I appreciate some of them have to lose in the first round, but doesn't that make the matches better? I think that the C2 comes so close to that brief, but it's not every great wrestler in AEW. You do a year-long G1, that's how stacked the roster is. I answer this question because, one, thank you for it. Two, something close at the G1. You could easily do, for example, the World Classic and do it ahead of All In, for example, and just do your AEW G1, because, I mean, New Japan grew year on year on year and always built an incredible Tokyo Dome main event despite burning through these matches between their main event talents. There was not a single guy you think, what the hell are they not doing in the G1? In the peak years, it was everyone who was a name and who was awesome was wrestling each other. Different blocks, mind you, but they could do that again, you know?
Yeah.
I've got an idea, and this question has sort of reminded me of, because I had it percolating in the background of my mind a few times, okay? I want a wrestling company, ideally AEW, to do the FA Cup style.
Okay.
Now, if you don't know what the FA Cup is, if you're not a fan of association football or soccer, as it's known in the States, the FA Cup takes every single league every single associated FA-registered football club, to the extent that it's the biggest minnows, that's the language that people in football use, the biggest minnows, or the smallest minnows, rather, in fixtures that you don't even know about because they're not even covered, that between teams you've never heard of, and it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds until you get the league teams, then the Premier League teams. So I'm not exactly saying that everyone in AEW should be in it. Like, it goes on so long, the FA Cup, that it would just be a nightmare in terms of who gets momentum and new signings or whatever. But take the principle of how it's drawn. So what happens is there's a big pool of football teams in an actual pot, and they are represented by a ball. And in each round, what happens is you get a ball and you take it out of the pot, and then it's got like Liverpool, and then you get the balls, take another one out versus, I don't know, Portsmouth.
Yeah.
And you get all these randomized fixtures, and the fixtures get played, and then the names go back into the pot. So there are no brackets, and it gets away from that wrestling booking of, all right, okay, well, I'm fairly certain that Samoa Joe's going to beat Jeff Hardy in the Owen, for example. And if Joe gets through that challenge, he's going to beat the winner of, I don't know, Serpentico and Cthulhu. Do you know what I mean? It's like the brackets make these things so obvious. I think if you do, it's not round robin or single elimination. I don't know what the exact term is for the FA Cup system, but if it's like, right, okay, so Kenny Omega's advanced and such is advanced, what if you did like the draw on Dynamite? You could even do it as a shoot and present yourself with a book and challenge. That's probably stupid.
You did one of the lethal lotteries as a shoot, I think. And
and
putting these teams
work
together that was like, that doesn't work at all. Well, we should have worked this.
Yeah, but like, what if like just a bit of spark and excitement? Because we've talked a lot about wrestling's kind of boring and patterned, and you kind of know what's going to happen kind of all of the time. This sort of system where it's like Kenny Omega versus, oh, Jesus Christ, he's drawn Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
I imagine it could be, and like you actually watch the draw. Like the draw itself for the FA Cup
It's an event as well, yeah.
It's an event. Like, I want them to do the FA Cup.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where like it would have to be worked to a point, but there would be a lot of excitement in the first round where you've got the most possible combinations and permutations.
Do 32.
Yeah.
32.
32 feels a nice number where you can allow for...
Do it as a shoot.
Let's say there was a match that Omega Ospreay is a perfect example, because that would have been one that, given the choice as a booker, you would want to get to the final. And then, well, it probably won't come out the hat, but it might. And then we have to pivot if that happens. Wrestling pivots enough from other stuff, so you can absolutely pivot if one draw doesn't go your way in that first round. But it does. And I tell you what else I like about that pitch, is that the wrestlers in the hat would then, like, see who they're drawn against and have to have a chat with the booker about wanting to win it and why they want to win it. And that's good for, like, a bit of competitive, like, spirit. And, you know, I'm not saying anybody gets buried, but the idea is like, well, let's say you draw a big star against a bit of a minnow, but the minnow makes quite a compelling case for beating that big star in this one night. And then they have to either agree upon that and potentially you make somebody. Like, what's a great example of a one-night star? Razor and the Kid is like a one-night star maker. That's a cup match of a match, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the underdog's just beaten, you know, sort of one of the favourites. The opportunities for that would be all over that first round. Like, theoretically, even if you book in the card after that, every single match has the opportunity to have that spark, have that instant star-making thing. A recent example, failed as it was for the reasons we would see, but Action Andretti and Chris Jericho on the night felt amazing, didn't it? And you would get to have that feeling, that third round weekend feeling over several weeks of Dynamite and Collision. Yeah. And I think that's what the C2 lost for me this year, was in some...
I thought the C2 this year was incredible.
I really liked it, but in some respects, I think I preferred it with the leagues split on the shows. I felt like the leagues had a bit more identity and scattering it across all the shows.
No, I agree with that.
Took something away from the individual prestige of the blocks. So, the Owen, I think they're getting there, though, because I did really love
Two great tournaments last year.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that was driven by the all-in stipulation. Keep that. Like, you win this, you get a title shot on the biggest show of the year. Yeah. That's as good as a Royal Rumble win, that tournament, and does make every match bigger, because think about how many first round matches, the best example being Hangman Page and Jeff Jarrett, we fantasy booked because you could make arguments for both to win. That was happening way more than in prior AEW tournaments. So on the right lines with the Owen.
Absolutely. Mark Lee Willis asks, what one thing made you laugh out loud and still makes you chuckle to this day when remembering it in AEW's history? Not because it's crap funny, rather intentionally funny, minus Sting and Orange Cassidy trading kicks, the chest beat at the end too. Loads. It was just so incidentally funny, AEW. There's probably some stuff that I remember loving and gushing over at the time that I've completely forgotten. On that, I'm becoming a spreadsheet nerd. I was talking to you about this earlier. I have created, to like help me with these sorts of questions in the future, a spreadsheet entitled I Felt Something for This. And it's got two columns. The thing I felt something for and when it happened. So I'm going to start keeping a catalogue. But one that comes to mind immediately, and I feel like given the press of late, this wrestler could probably do with people remembering that she was once absolutely amazing once upon a time. Dr. Britt Baker, who, if you look at what they've done and what Toni Storm herself has done since, one day Britt Baker might be remembered as a trailblazer, as someone, as a woman who was actually allowed to be funny and not the punchline, and instrumental in changing the way that women are treated and promoted in pro wrestling in the United States. Pandemic era, Britt Baker, she is shot. Is it when Brandy's doing something in the middle of the ring? But then it cuts to Britt Baker as a plant in the stands, and she just does this eye roll, and it's...
I can picture it. Yeah. She only has like a couple of seconds to do it as well.
It's amazing. She looks like she is trying to express her contempt so much that just seeing if she can get that eyeball to come out the top of her head.
Yeah.
It's great. It's absolutely great.
There's one specific example that I will save for you to describe, because you always do such a good and fun job of describing this in detail. But I'll name the wrestler and then you'll know the spot I'm talking about. Me and you in person, pissing ourselves laughing at Big Bill getting to be Big Bill for one of the first times in the International Title Battle Royal at Double or Nothing 2023. Like, owning your faves and like pulling faces and just like making a mockery of. It was weirdly and funnily enough, considering where he finds himself in AEW at present, 1,000,000 times better than the Jericho Appreciation Society ever was at illustrating the difference between pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Because here was this guy luxuriating in being a ginormous 7-foot sports entertainer, like eliminating another one of your pro wrestling. Like he knew that was his role that night. Like jeans era Big Bill, lollipop on the way down the ring, Big Bill, all that in a battle royal setting where these basically walking punchlines were everywhere for him. And with every elimination, the boos got a little bit louder, and he started like mimicking some people in the front row. Yeah, really sort of doing the like that. And Big Bill's so funny. Like he's got,
he's class.
It's disgusting what's happening to him because he's got so much charisma. Yeah. And the tag spot with was it Ricky Starks and him were tag team champions, and he goes back and he has to do the second check. You know, when who was it? Was it FTR they were fighting?
For they beat them for the titles. Yeah, they beat FTR.
And he's doing that mean mug bit. Is it where is he like sniffing his fingers or something like that? And he's like, no, it doesn't quite smell right yet. And then he goes back for a second shot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it not when he gets someone's t-shirt?
He wipes his ass.
He wipes his ass, and he's like, is there still any crap on this?
And there is.
And there is. Oh, God, it's taking ages, this one. All right, okay, fine, we're done.
Still on his ass.
I described that in an article once as a Kubrickian attention to being a bellend. Just unbelievable.
Nobody has ever done the check and the second wipe with the sort of... he was really onto something. And Chris Jericho took it all away.
And then Chris Jericho took it all away.
Could I also give a special mention to
of course you can.
Pretty much all of the comedy in the Double or Nothing Stadium Stampede
match.
Yes.
Like, properly comedy done well on wrestling television. Because at the time, WWE were toilet as well.
Yeah.
And it was like a real good reminder of how funny that company was. Like Hangman at the bar with Kenny. And like with everything that happened inside there. Unbelievable.
Even Jericho giving the Judas effect to the mascot.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just tremendous.
Was it again?
Jericho was really
Jericho
funny
in that time.
Jericho at that
point. From obviously a little bit of bubbly and a little guy in there, but that's a witch's hat era Chris Jericho.
Witch's hat Jericho!
Like there's.
That was amazing.
He couldn't go wrong. He couldn't go wrong.
Witch's hat Jericho. I remember deep in the depression of when can I leave my house? When will it be quiet again? When can I commute? Yeah. I missed the Tainumia Metro public transport system. That's how much I wanted to be out. And then we were still watching NXT at the time, so probably 4 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. And this absolutely incredible, had no right to be as good, like Falls Count Anywhere tag all around dailies. He just finds a traffic cone and goes, if I put that on my head and I pretend to be a witch and do a cackle, that'll be funny, won't it?
Not all of the Fued went as well as it could have done, but some real highlights of the before the turn and before the formation of the Pinnacle, like the night where they swerve you and it ends up being like a Saturday Night Live finale where the credits roll and they all wave.
Because he gets a clown in and he gets the picture. Bang! He kills this clown as well.
Smashes the clown. And when they beat up Papa Buck, it was like, cheese it! Doing the pose out the window.
Like, we need to get the pose, and after that we're going to our asses kicked, so we better tuck tail and go. Amazing.
Lovely.
Professional asks, who is the most, and then the bell rings, wrestler going at the moment? It is Trick Williams. I'm not even a big entrances guy. I'm like, skip. I watch Trick Williams' entrances and think, all right, okay, he's going to wrestle. He's going to headline WrestleMania in 2 years' time, and then the bell rings, and he's just, nothing he does looks good. Nothing he does is authentic. He just doesn't look like he's hard, even though he's chiseled. Send him on excursion for 2 years.
Yeah. It's hard to argue. I think because the gap is so big, I would have said, like, maybe a year ago even, I would have still said Hook, but the aura's gone before he entered. Once upon a time, there was a Hook that blew your mind until the bell rang, and then it was like, right, now I need a bit more than what I'm getting in these matches. But he's just not. Like, Trick is the best answer because of how over he is right up to that point. Like, you could watch him in a building and go megastar. Like, I would... up until recently, still extend that to Jey Uso, but there's probably never been a wrestler that's gotten away more with being and the bell rings. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's kind of made that work for him, I suppose.
Yeah.
Whereas Trick Williams, I believed he could, and I'm just not yet seeing it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Peter H. asks, as Hangman has long been considered the main character of AEW, is there anything to the descent of the Hangman character into madness coinciding with the dip from AEW's previously high standard to now? Even the slow improvements seem to mirror Page's slow burn back to babyface. While I know there are a myriad of reasons as to ultimately why, I do find the correlation intriguing. Me too. It's AEW at its very best. We say this like a lot. I used to get, you're reaching, bro. You're reaching. It's like, I don't care. I'm interacting with the thing I'm really, really into.
It's fun to reach.
It's fun to reach, and I don't think half of wrestling fans know what Hand of the Author is anyway, so that's absolutely fine. I like this idea from Peter H., and if this allows Peter H. to have hope for the future and to draw his own interpretation of the company and Hangman Page's role in it, and if one thing interacts with the other.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really happening, I don't think, because it's a similar deal with the Death Riders, this hypothesis, if you like, where what if like AEW just got like magically good when Jon Moxley was sort of still in his quest to just save it, you know what I mean? He can't, and it's another problem with this sort of thing. It's, all right, well, I'm Chris Jericho and I'm going to make someone a star. They're not a star, Chris, and you feuded with them for 6 months. Mm-hmm. It just, you can't make things into reality in wrestling. So Hangman Page being this babyface, it would be nice if he caught fire at the same time as a babyface, as AEW started to get a resurgence, but you can't ever plan for these things. And I think their belief that they can is ruined a lot of things, but I do like the interpretation, and Christ knows I would like it to come true. Do you want to answer that? Because it's the second part of the question.
Well, part of that for me is that even if Page doesn't, say he regains the title, and that would be almost like a climax of, like, the good times are back, even if that doesn't sort of change the business metrics for AEW, and it kind of remains in the smaller buildings with smaller ratings and whatnot, and you're not seeing tangible growth, but people are enjoying the show again. I think the two are connected. Like, I think it's a nice theory, but I also think there's actual connection there, because there is an unbreakable bond between AEW's base, whatever that is now, and I think that's probably more confused than it's ever been. But whatever that base is, there is an unbreakable bond between that and Hangman Page. The lack of like heart and sleeve customer satisfaction is obvious in AEW and has been for a long time now. That would definitely satisfy your customers. I don't know if it would find new ones. That's what we don't know at the moment, is if it would find new ones. But your customers would be so satisfied, you would feel it. The energy in the building would be louder constantly, because the world champion wouldn't be this Death Rider's Jon Moxley, it would be Hangman Page, the wrestler that pretty much unifies anyone that considers themselves part of AEW's base. He's that guy. It's why, and again, I'm saying this as a guy who loved him and didn't draw it. It's why WWE would go back to Brett every time. It's why the NWA and WCW would go back to Ric Flair. If there's one person that galvanizes your base and they've got the belt, everything else feels more possible. Yeah. And Page is that. So I think I don't just think it's a good theory. I think there's probably something provable to it. Yeah. More than anybody else. I think there's Page, and in terms of what people feel towards him, there's him and everybody else. We hear it a lot of the time from like audiences, like from like women and people, audiences that are not cared for as much by wrestling promoters, brackets, general, like want Hangman Page and don't feel like they're being catered to. So he gets pushed, and then they feel more catered to, and they're more inclined to watch the show and be like, oh, maybe this still is for me. Yeah.
The people who love the Elite obviously love Hangman Page, who's a part of the, integral to that long story. But what's noticeable about Hangman Page as well is that people who don't really like the Elite like how much of a sicko he is. Yeah. And how much brutality. I know people who hate the Elite who really rate Hangman Page as well. He's
got the matches.
He's got the matches. Yeah. He's got like the violence, Peter H. also asks, as the Tropicana Smooth of podcasts, no bits, what is one thing that everyone may assume is a bit, but actually isn't? You might have a different answer. You can dwell upon this as I give you an answer. You might think, and maybe he does sort of, he exit. Adam Wilborn doesn't go OTT in his love of the family to annoy me, even though it annoys me. I'll say this again. Adam Wilborn is so easygoing. He's the guy who's just in a chipper mood. He's a very optimistic guy. He's great to have around if you're having like a day where you can't be asked or whatever. He'll just pop you. Yeah. Like he's a class guy, and like I've seen him be in situations where you think, Christ, I would hate to be in that situation, but it didn't seem to bother him that much. I never see him get annoyed. He's not a big ranter. Like he'll do the broken Wilborn thing, and I'm not saying it's disingenuous, but it doesn't seem to really, nothing really phases Adam Wilborn. I was sat next to him at WrestleMania, the Raw after, when Ilya Dragunov, who had just defeated Tony D to retain the title, came out to make his main roster debut, and Wilborn there, he swore, what the is he doing beating Tony there? And he wasn't doing a bit, he genuinely was rattled.
The night after like WrestleMania 40, the ultimate fan service conclusion. Well,
he was legitimately, I've never actually seen him quite.
That's after the Rock Cody thing. So you've seen one of the best Rock segments ever. Yeah. Consensus.
Like, at least one of the most interesting.
Yeah. And he's just, that's where he goes. Yeah. That was the first thing that came to mind. It's not necessarily a bit, but I dare say people in the comments think it is. I don't think, I know mine aren't, like, none of our biases are fake. We don't do biases for clicks. Like, we'd get more if we did. Like, we don't, like, the things we like and the things we hate, it's legit. It's like, there's no you turn up on a Tuesday, in as much as you enjoy and are quite good at being a hater, rocking up and saying that CM Punk promo was rubbish if it was good, or this Raw match was rubbish if it was good. Likewise, I'll actually enjoy the slop I'm praising, even if you're in complete disbelief.
Yeah, I can't believe you. Yeah, I believe you and I don't at the same time.
There's no faking the biases for clicks, and I'd like to think that's rarefied air on YouTube, because some of the stuff I see from people must be a lie. Like I see some just absolute grifters out there.
It's transparent, and I think less of people for buying into that utterly transparent crap. How can you not smell it? How can you not smell it? It's weird how it's all shaken out. I'm not into AEW's direction, but I lean towards it. You are in love with the Fed right now. Yeah. It sounds like a pretty cynical business strategy. One guy likes WWE. One guy likes AEW. Guess what? We got all bases covered.
How are we going to get along?
And there's something for everybody.
Yeah.
I hate WWE a lot of times. I think it's just not for me, but it's very much for you.
It's sat in an ACAS.
We're still friends.
It's sat in an ACAS server room right now, because I think it only keeps us going until 2022. But Jesus Christ, like 2020 to 2021 NXT, the suck-ass years. You'll find nobody said anything nice for a full hour.
Yeah.
Like, none of the three of us. Is there anything we can get from this? Not a thing. Right, well, let's just bury it then, because it's hideous. Yeah. Like, there'll be times like that for all three of the shows again. Yeah. We've done it long enough now, and hopefully we'll do it long enough into the future for it all to come around again for each brand, won't it? You know, like Wilborn will turn on NXT one day. You can't imagine it, can you? But there will come a time.
Never.
Wilborn will one day turn on
his business. He's been there before.
Do you think when Tony D leaves, he's just looking at the landscape? There's nobody good anymore.
Yeah, no.
I've been saying this for a while. There's been nobody on the come up in the men's division. Yeah.
It'll happen. It will happen. Francois Dillinger asks, do you see any situation where Tony pivots and ends the Death Rider story Mox reign early? The dead crowd reactions, quarter-hour ratings for their segments, and online reception don't seem to be doing anything. Tony's feckless. He's a feckless coward at times.
Tell him how you really feel.
He just did. I mean, come on. Like, the amount of times when he could have resolved the situation by just, like, you're a billionaire. You don't have to be one of these people like me who will just put things off because they're quite scary to think about, and it's just going to kick your ass.
CM Punk in the Elite in his office drawer. Yeah. And that nobody ever opens that drawer.
That's how he did it for like...
$4.59 on a Friday. Can you work with Kenny Omega? See you later. Runs out of the office.
That was 18 months of a billionaire's life. I find it baffling. But to try and do a measured response here, he did, when the last time it was like, oh God, NXT's kind of going to beat you. And NXT's kind of beating them now. I know it's not the same optics as the War. But December 2019, he was like, I need creative control. Yeah. I need final cut, basically. He's done that before. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. It gets more and more stark every single week how bobbins it is. Just these terrible props, these ridiculous crimes, these bizarre targets.
Yeah.
This dreary heat after heat after heat after heat after heat segment. I think honestly, like the ratings start to get much worse, and they're holding steady as they always do. It's not they're not great, but they often win the night. And as long as Tony can say to Warner, won the night.
Yeah,
he's scared of Jon Moxley.
We've talked about this a lot since the years of the TV money controlling all came in. How, we don't know what execs want or think, but you can make assumptions that, well, they're happy with this, so. It's like when WWE was absolutely terrible, but the money was piling. It was like, well, now it's changing because the money's there. So you can always apply.
It's been there before, that's what I'll say.
You can always apply that. Who asked the question, sorry?
Francois Dillinger.
Francois's point about how, and I said this on our Dynamite review, it felt like a confluence of all the things bad about the Death Riders on that Dynamite, didn't it?
Yeah.
The contrast between how hot the first hour was versus the second, the fact that the match was dying on its ass in front of a silent crowd. Which,
Rock and Roll Express again.
What? So much of it in one go wasn't just bad anyway. It was bad, in contrast to other good stuff on the show that was well received. And Jon Moxley used to get reactions like that when he was doing the Red Wagon prop comedy. He rightfully shot on the Chris Jericho podcast, and he's come all the way around where this chosen version of his character is now getting the responses that bad comedy Dean Ambrose once got. And was he not the man that we relentlessly praised for his amazing instincts, for his amazing abilities, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
That can't be gone. You can lose your Midas touch. Jon Moxley appears to have lost his Midas touch, but he can't have just completely lost his head for the entire game. He must acknowledge it. We've posed this question so many times on this podcast. Tell us, scoopsters, news reporters, we're not journalists, tell us who's pitching and who's approving every week. Yeah. That's what I want. I don't want to know who agent of the match is. I want to know how this is getting ticked off.
Preferably. It's part of a union, preferably.
Yeah. How is any of this making air without somebody going, that? And then
who's believing in this idea? I don't think Tony is.
No.
He must know it stinks.
But then be a boss and
Mox
say...
must know it stinks.
Mm-hmm. There's too much. If it was one duff a week...
City is getting the old...
the old Jimmy Jacobs under the bus treatment. Yeah. Which, again, that was transparent at the time, wasn't it? It was almost like this, what's the sort of old medieval shows where the natives are getting restless. We need somebody's head on a spike.
Yeah.
Serve them Jimmy Jacobs.
Yeah.
That happened then and it'll happen again, won't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Very Cool Video Man asks, how would you book the return of Nikki Bella in the Fed?
In the Fed?
In the Fed. I think they mean the Fed.
Okay.
Rumble.
Yeah.
Route 1 on it. Massive pop. Have some kind of conflict with someone who's in that match. Who would you program her with?
In the division currently, I think it would depend very much on, I suppose...
By the way, she's been through loads, and she's the Bella Twins have got an absolutely immense following.
Yeah, no,
this could be big.
I kind of support this broadly. I think it's nice for her if this is what she's after doing. And maybe this is a bit of a Dr. Fed take. Late 2016, Nikki Bella was putting a run together. There's some matches there, and I think people just completely forget that. People associate Nikki Bella with that long Divas title reign that cynically existed to remove AJ Reese from the record books, and the last Divas champion before it was renamed the women's division, and suddenly the Bellas felt like they didn't belong in it. But somebody had to be in that division. We don't blame the women for being part of a division that was just maligned, Nikki Bella, when that women's division leveled up with it, and the injuries caught up with it because of that. All of a sudden, her style was far more hard hitting, and she had to change the rack attack because that was doing untold damage to her neck. She had a feud with Carmella where they just beat the brakes off each other every single week. It's there's some evidence that if she wants to, she can probably still go. Yeah. I don't know if the years removed are going to impact that, and that would inform whether or not you put her in a series program. As a babyface, and considering how big a star she is, I'm not necessarily pitching her to win it, but I would love to see her do some big-time feeling stuff with United States champion Chelsea Green. Oh, Chelsea Green is just perfect with anybody. Yeah. So she finds the chemistry with the wrestler, not the other way around. So she already feeling like the biggest star in the world is now confronted with somebody that objectively is bigger.
Yeah.
Who is like older and is maybe like got a few more miles on the clock. Maybe the wheels already fell off. We don't know. Chelsea Green can play with that. Chelsea Green, low key good, but she's just not needed to be good that often. So the match quality, I think, would surprise people as well. Like Chelsea Green and Nikki Bella have got a better match in them than the graphic might suggest.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that.
Also, just to interject, sorry, but Nikki Bella on the Traitors US, Michael Hamflett, did you hear this?
I did hear that, and it's the only thing that's made me want to watch the US Traitors.
So maybe there's some crossover there for the WWE. Yeah.
Indeed. I would like...
Which I don't care about, and I know Sidgwick probably doesn't care about either, but there you go. Maybe you do.
Don't care about WWE or the Traitors. Yeah.
They're the two things...
My guy. My man.
After my family, they're the two things I care the most about. Like,
shut up.
WWE and the Traitors. Goes back to just
Robert Enright. Robert Enright asks, how far do you think WWE will realistically go with Jacob Fatu? I don't know. They protect them heavily. Mm-hmm. I would have him be Cody Rhodes to the title after WrestleMania. Like he's way more established than Okada was in 2012, but a Rainmaker shock where it's like, oh, Cody's won at WrestleMania. Time now for his spring-summer trilogy. And then he wrestles Jacob Fatu. I was like, oh, God, it's done.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know if it's that exact set of circumstances, but short answer is all the way. Like, there has never been... I suppose this is a real test for WWE right now. I got, a few pelters about saying this could be the beginning of the end. This current period, I feel like WrestleMania's...
There's 14 people on Twitter, mate.
WrestleMania's taken care of, but everything after that we'll see, basically. Yeah. But there is and you're seeing enough of it now, and it's not just me saying this. There is an obvious need for new tree. We need new tree, but the stars that are just about there need to be now elevated. Have you got it in you, Triple H? Not by the wrestlers who want it. Do you want it?
Yeah.
Do you want to take Braun Breaker for there and put him there? Do you want to take Ilya Dragunov from there and put him there? Jey Uso, Chad Gable, who knows? Jacob Fatu, I would maybe currently slotting above all of them because he's already shared space with Cody Rhodes and with Roman Reigns and has proven that he can hang and all the rest of it. So to me, he's kind of like the most interesting wrestler to watch this year because I don't need a world title run immediately, but I need to be shown that it's happening.
Yeah.
And you're competent, like WWE. You know what you're doing, you set things in motion, and for the most part, they play out. Here's a test of it now. Your first run of guys, Cody Rhodes is going to lose the title at some point. CM Punk is going to get his WrestleMania main event or whatever. Roman Reigns is going to revert to that part-time schedule he was looking like having before Triple H kit. These men are going to start moving to the side a bit. Like Jacob Fatu's the one to slot in at the very, very top next to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt Reigns. Yes, hi, Matt Reigns again. The number one Sidgwick Mega fan and best friend of Hamflett. If you guys did bits, you don't. Which would be each of your personal favourites that you've done? Again, if you did them.
Oh,
cheers, brothers.
Bits. We need that list that Wilborn pulled up the other week. Because watch out, Matt. I know Matt did. Our secret banter this year with Wilborn just going through as many bits as possible. And it's ridiculous how many last a couple of weeks then go. Isn't it? Do you know what I'm really enjoying at the moment? It's all good stuff. Good humour.
It's all good stuff.
I really, really enjoy that one because if I'm saying that, it means there's just been some excellent humour.
Yeah.
We've just had something great.
Yeah.
And again, because we don't do bits, it's not a bit. That's actually how I feel in the moment.
I think that when we get into a groove of Dead Man, it's just great, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great.
He's given us so much over the years.
I take the piss out of that, out of Dax Harwood as well. Stop taking yourself so seriously now. We'll send you up.
I'd like to meet the Collision Cops. They seem like a good couple of lads.
Do you want to hear a joke that I wrote?
Yes.
About Dax Harwood. I did the Alternative Wrestling Awards as an article, and I said in that article that Dax Harwood loves the goddamn business so much that if he missed a Bronco Buster, he'd just keep going. It's all good stuff. It's good stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's all good stuff.
Humor.
It's all good stuff.
It's very funny.
I like how the mental image just fills and fills. And he just busts. And then he just busts after a while.
Bronco Buster.
Yeah.
why they call it that.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight away.
It's all good stuff.
Oh, dear me.
John Harrison. Wrestling beards. If you could have the beard of any wrestler, whose would you have? Peace and love. You know what?
It's got to be Lexus King, right?
I mean, it's got to be Lexus King. You know what? Like, loath though I am to put him over, right? I have always been so taken by Hollywood Hogan's beard. The character of Hollywood Hogan.
Yeah,
I hate Terry Bollea as much as the next person. My beard, my short beard that I have, it's kind of a little bit soft. It's not all the way in. There's the odd patch here. It's a good beard. I'm happy with the beard. It's not an amazing beard. It gets a bit curly and stuff the longer it goes. He's got that sandpaper, every pore of his skin covered like man beard.
It's a nice character choice as well.
It's a great character choice.
There's Hogan. There's Hollywood. Like, you remember that we've discussed this before. The image of him at the front of a magazine. The first time you saw it.
What?
Has the world gone dark?
Yeah.
Are we going to get taken over? Yeah, no, that's a great shout. I don't have anyone better than that. Presumably he's going to go back to it now. He seems like he's revealed his heel turn. But the weekly reveal from Lexus King and whatever they'd drawn on his face that week was like, you dumbass, you've done it again. Like that.
If he could just go to even Dominic Mysterio's level, it'd be amazing.
We're good to go. Yeah,
he's another one for and when the bell rings.
Yeah,
he's almost he's too useless. Because if he was just a little bit less useless, it would be like, it'd work.
You found a spot you occupy.
He's not meant to be skilled. He's a heel.
Yeah.
But it's just not good enough to not be skilled.
It's a shame.
Sean Murphy asks, if you could be an invisible fly on the wall for any backstage moment in wrestling history, what would you choose? Right, I've got present and evergreen for this.
Okay.
I need to know what these Death Rider creative meetings look like. I just want to see the WhatsApp screenshots. I want to know if it's like Tony Khan and Jon Moxley and I don't know RJ City and one of the writers because they've got like a big old bench now.
Yeah,
and they're sat down or they're in the Death Riders WhatsApp, which is ridiculous. Who says get the Rock and Rolls back? The Rock and Rolls are doing a meet and greet. Should we get them back in to do another angle? And who's the one? I want to see the looks on their faces of like, I want to see the lip biting of, are you joking? Why we're doing this again? Or they're all just hyped up and thought, yeah, man, we'll get him.
Yeah.
I need to know who is trying to contain their embarrassment and anger or apathy, or is someone just saying, yeah, do whatever, I do not care anymore.
Which is bad, isn't it?
You've got some people who have been responsible for some of my favorite wrestling moments ever, certainly of the last 5 years, and Jon Moxley and Tony Khan. How between them are they getting this so wrong? Who feels awkward about it? Who doesn't care? They can't possibly each think sincerely that this is good. I just want to know what it looks like. My evergreen, I need to see what happened to Brawl Out. I want to actually. One, I need to see Brawl Out blow by blow everything. I just want to know who, were they really kicking the door down? Did that dog's face really get sort of...
You'd take even like a Wrestling with Shadows take on it, wouldn't you? Where you get just enough.
I want to see the whole thing.
The wrestlers lined up
in
the corridor and whatnot, like enough of knowing.
I would
like the whole thing, yeah.
Is it that CM Punk? It's like a wild animal. It's Nick Jackson's coming right for us. Just like he feels like the need to come out or whatever. Or
I've always thought of Kenny as the Terrence and Phillip Canadian. Get the dog out of here.
Or is it just a bang, 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 open the door? What was that? Oh, I'll punch you, baby. You know what I mean? Like, because they're not going to go, well, CM Punk, let's have a little sit down.
Yeah.
The situation's come to a head. They're obviously going to be upset, but there's a difference between upset and frustrated and I want a shouting match with you. Oh, it's time to kick your ass. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know what it looks like, and I also want to know. Dave Meltzer wrote in various observers, either he said to Tony Khan, get rid of Colt, sick of looking at us, I'm sick of looking at him, or if he was like, sure, it would be nice if there's too many producers. There's too many producers, Tony. I think maybe you could do with letting one of them go. I just want to know if it was intimated or explicitly told. How can all of the AEW roster be wrong?
Yeah.
I just need to know for sure. Just for sure.
I would like, I've got a couple. I would like to, I don't want to fly too far, Isage. I simply want to fly to Blackburn, England, to the WCW Wrestlers Hotel in 1992 when Sid and Arn Anderson spill each other's blood across a hotel at like tea time in the 90s.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Families having their dinner and all of a sudden these hulking monsters come back from a show and says like, Flair sucked ass and you do too, and then chair legs and the rest. Or the bar where he brings out the squeegee to fight Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
That would be pretty good. I would also, and I don't really like either of them anymore, but I remember it made me feel good on the internet reading at the time that Joey Styles sparked out JBL with one punch.
I went into the, apparently it's not as cool as it was made out. It was like a bit of a sucker punch deal. Bit of a sucker punch situation. At least that's the Observer's retelling of that tale.
I always think of it, the story already exists in my head as an actual cage fight because somebody made like a very primitive animated GIF at the time of like just a one-punch knockout from a UFC fight, but it was like Joey Styles and JBL with heads on. Again, like a South Park animation.
Yeah.
Pop, and like JBL falls to the ground.
What about for you, the time when Punk walked out on WWE just to see the look on Triple H's face of, you need me to work with you, I don't need a match with Triple H.
Yeah.
I'm gone.
That day, that whole Raw
What
following
was
the
that?
Rumble.
Yeah.
As well, because like obviously what we know about Punk is that he'll have done this amazing job in this all-timer podcast appearance with Colt Cabana, but it's Punk. So it's not only one side, it's CM Punk's side. So what we'll never know from the other side of that story is...
I'm just 99% certain that it was kind of CM Punk's fault. But there are 2 Dynamite cards that he either wrestled a match where Colt wrestled a match, or he did commentary in Colt. No, there's 2 Dynamite cards where CM Punk wrestled a match and then Colt Cabana wrestled a match. Maybe, but then maybe it's like I have to kind of get Tony's trust, like worm my way in and then get rid.
Yeah. I was going to say the Collision locker room on his first night back, but that was the point, wasn't it? It was a locker room that would have been broadly okay with that like opening promo. If you could have like...
They would have had the siege mentality, like patting each other on the back for like, do the basics. It would have been a horrible...
A hell of a night.
respect the business kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't want to see that as long as I live.
No, thank you.
There's a lot of questions that we're not being able to get through today. Thank you for submitting them. Continue to submit them. There was one about...
I've got one left. I want to do one. You got one more on there?
I've got one more. You get yours out.
Okay.
And you know what? Do yours first.
Okay.
And your question as well.
My question, and I promised this a couple of weeks ago, is from Travis not at AW1 on Twitter anymore, but I'm sure he's on there on Blue Sky. And thank you, Travis, as always, for your support. And indeed for your DM on Cameo. You can DM me on Cameo and maybe Sidge in the future. I don't know. Maybe not.
Can't bother.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Sidge can't be asked.
I should.
Sidge can't be asked. I can.
I can't be asked to set it up. I can be asked to talk to you.
Order a Cameo from me whenever you want. I'm going to spend it on Mountain Dew the next time we're in America. But there was a question that Travis DM'd me. I have a question for the next Dudley Boys Q&A. I didn't grow up liking Ric Flair, but I adored his 2003 heel run in WWE as a mid-carder, well past his prime, who could still get it done with some dirty tricks. Do you think Chris Jericho has a run in him like that?
He's a mid-carder now. He's a mid-carder now. He just needs to go away or retire. Like, it's done. Never say never. Chris Jericho's never going to be over in a hot AEW again. He's kind of in that role now when it's not working. He doesn't have the gravitas. He doesn't know when to have gone away. He's never been Flair. That's the whole thing. He's always been the B+. He's never been the A. And now, because he's never had the magic of the A, it's just not working for him at all.
I'd love to know what...
I like your optimism, Travis. I really do.
Well, it makes me wonder what somebody with no prior... Like, because Travis's point about Ric Flair there is that, I never really knew Flair, and then all of a sudden seeing this old guy. Yeah. There'll be some AEW fans that are young, and they're just seeing Jericho from maybe 2019 onwards, or maybe even now, 2024 onwards, and all they know is this Chris Jericho.
New ones this month.
What do they think of him? Yeah, what must they think of this Chris Jericho? Like, they must be watching going, why is Grandad here? Like, well, at least we've got this sort of like, well, he was this guy once, or whatever. Even 2019, he was that guy.
He doesn't have what Ric Flair had. He doesn't have the magic. He's always been very, very funny or clever. He's thick now, but he was clever. But he doesn't have the magic that Flair had to be able to do it. He just doesn't have the magic, and you need the magic if you're going to be an old dude wrestler. And I think Chris Jericho has exposed himself as not having the magic. We've got one more quick question because we do need to wrap up. Wrestle Culture is coming your way imminently. This is from Luna. Again, so many other questions. There's one about 80s music for a wrestling theme. I'll try and remember it for next time. This is Luna saying, what is the worst possible 3-person commentary team you can think of? Anyone from any company from any era. Matt Striker, and Matt Striker. I hate Matt Striker as much as I love my children.
I'm marking out, bro.
He's insufferable. What's his strategy? It's like when he would like ask these questions and put these co-commentators on the spot. What's his strategy?
Yeah.
What's his strategy?
Can I name your all-time worst 3-person desk and then a special celebrity guest? Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with Matt Striker.
Yeah.
Pat McAfee.
Yeah. Oh.
Post 2001 Jerry the King Lawler.
Nah, that's worse.
Okay. Special guest celebrity Susan St. James.
Just ban him.
Uh-oh.
Here comes the cowboy. Never watch WrestleMania 2. Never do a chronological rewatch of WrestleMania. And you won't because you'll try and then give up.
Some people are on
fine.
Netflix, aren't they? What
so
are
it's
they doing?
Fine. Yeah, I know.
Joe's got the
Striker.
You hate McAfee.
McAfee. Josh Matthews.
Josh Matthews, really? I just thought he'd have been too like.
He's a little kicked cat turd on NXT, but maybe he was a bit too bland and ineffective. Mauro.
Good.
Mauro, McAfee, Striker. I'm sorry, I'm just not. I appreciate everything he's been through. I appreciate he's got his fans. Mauro Ranallo was so distracting and obnoxious to me. I'm sorry.
Can you imagine like Mauro Ranallo and just Pat McAfee as a WWE commentary team today? That's nightmare if you'll watch the whole thing.
It's Mauro and Matt Striker for me. I can't imagine anything worse. The two most we think we're clever dudes.
Yeah. Not good. I can't really. I don't even mind Pat McAfee as much, but that would be horrible. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not as charmed by Booker T. I like him fighting with Vic, but he's an awful, awful commentator.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah,
so I'd include him as like in an all-time worst.
Yeah, also have a 4-person.
Yeah,
why not?
Hire him on this terrible 4-person.
Rampage did it. Remember that?
Yeah,
that was so weird.
Because Jericho stunk on Rampage.
Yeah,
never
there's
good.
Jericho, Henry, Excalibur, and Schiavone, was it? I don't know, it was a complete joke.
Didn't work.
That's almost as bad as the one I've just pitched. But thank you very much for joining us. That concludes our Q&A. Hopefully we'll do something like this, or we'll have a different sort of flavor on a Friday. We are trying to experiment, but if not, follow us on X to submit your questions, and we will endeavor to answer them on a near enough weekly basis. You can do so at WhatCulture WWE. Whilst you're there, you can follow Michael Hamflett at
Michael Hamflett.
You can follow me at Sidgwick. We've got Wrestle Culture to follow. I believe you gentlemen have done your little self-indulgent SmackDown preview earlier today.
You better believe it.
You'll be able to find that wherever you get your podcasts from. We've got lots more.
Cats.
Meow. Over the weekend as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Do not forget to subscribe for daily wrestling podcasts wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon.